You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode.
Who's up for some podcasting? Fab Facts?
We're getting our very first Supermarionation pilot episode from the Randomiser.
And we're toasting everything that was with Andrew E.C. Gaska.
That's all coming up in pod 250
of the Gerry Anderson Podcast!
Wait, how did I get here?
What are you doing?
I have no idea.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Well,
pod 250.
Pod 250.
Who would have ever thought when we started out 250 weeks ago?
Chris, you don't look a day over 249.
Well, neither do you, sir.
Jamie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks very much. I'm astounded that we've actually made it this far. Certainly wasn't expecting it, as Chris points out, 250 weeks ago.
Oh, God.
And yet here we are.
That's got to be like that's close to 5 years, isn't it?
It's almost 5 years, but this isn't a 5-year anniversary. We're going to hold on for another celebration for that.
Oh, are we?
That was a sneak peek of something there.
Yes, well, maybe some more alcohol involved, possibly.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, anyway, for this one, completely sober,
I
pod
see.
250.
Right.
And it's you may have noticed, Postrons, that we've been joined by another voice who's not normally in
Who's
the
this?
room.
Yeah.
Oh, me. Yes, hello. I'm here with them. They're here with me.
Yes.
And hopefully that'll work.
When was the last time that happened? A live podcast?
Well, that would be
I
the
guess?
last live podcast we did in Birmingham.
Birmingham in April 2022.
So this is
Right.
only the 4th time, I think, that we've done the podcast together. We've done the 2 live ones, and we did one at your house.
Did we?
That was the first time we did one together. Yes, you cooked a very
wasn't
nice.
I can't even remember that.
You
It's
cooked a very
terrible.
nice sausage pie. I know.
Did I? But that
Yes.
sounds just like me.
Yes.
Well, this is the kind of stuff that has kept us going for 250 episodes of the Gerry Anderson Podcast, isn't
Really
it?
nice sausage pie.
Now, we've said that he's here, but obviously for audio, that's
Yes.
Chris Dale.
Oh,
Chris,
yes.
Chris
Hello.
Randomiser Dale. Chris
That would
the
be me,
Randomiser
yes.
Dale.
Yes.
So, Chris, what will you be doing at the end of this very special celebratory podcast?
Well, I'm here. Unfortunately, the randomizer is not with me, but I have a feeling that my faithful assistant Marina will have made preparations. Will have sorted something out there because she knows how incompetent I am. So
good.
it's down to the woman to sort things out. I'm quite right too.
Now, I should just point out, of course, because this is our 250th, I'm glad you said that, our 250th pod, we're shaking things up a little bit. Not only are
yes.
we podding, so you, dear Podstrons, will be listening to us on whichever app you choose to listen to us on, and, by the way, leaving a nice rating for us when you've finished, but we're also recording it on video.
Oh, are we now?
Yes, so this will be out on the
wasn't
Gerry Anderson
mentioned.
YouTube channel,
Ooh.
I guess, at
Not
some
sure how I
point.
feel about that.
And I'm sorry, did your agent not tell you?
No,
Oh, dear.
agent. What is this?
Marina. Yes, so we have shaken things up, and we're being hosted by the Moxy Thunderbirds Hotel in Slough.
Yes, lovely.
So thank you
That's
very
the
much.
first time I've been here, and it's thoroughly lovely.
Well, Chris, I mean, because it's your first time, do you want to maybe tell the listeners? This isn't an advertorial for Moxy Slough, we are grateful, but they won't know what's here. So, what are your highlights of what you've seen that are Thunderbirdsy about the Moxy in Slough?
There's Thunderbirds branding and Thunderbirds merch all over the place. Yes, should we say what room we are in?
Go on,
Allowed to say
yes.
that? We are in the Tintin suite, and we know this because there's a little animated photo of Tintin on the door. It keeps changing every so often, which is a very nice touch. Is there a Virgil suite as well?
There's Virgil and a Brains.
And a brain suite. Oh, brilliant, yes. But all around the building are little bits of decorations with Thunderbirds craft and such.
Yeah.
And it's lovely, yeah. Really nice place. I'm looking forward to having a bit of a look round after we're done with this.
And another Tracy Island iced tea. I mean,
yes.
a Tracy Island iced tea. There haven't been any
I don't know about
consumed
this
so
one.
far.
No. Far too early in the evening for that.
Anyway, so before I give ourselves away even more,
Yes.
coming up before Chris's randomiser,
Oh, yes.
which Marina will take care of. What else
Right.
have we got, Richard James? I don't know if you want to do this in
Yes.
in a celebratory style,
A celebratory style. Woohoo!
announcing the 250th of all the
The
things.
250th.
Although, is it the 250th?
No.
Well, now, you see, it's certainly the 250th... Oh, no, it'll be the 249th edition of the Gerry Anderson News.
Yes.
Won't it? It will also be our probably sort of 200th edition of Fab Facts coming up in a little while, because it took a bit of a breather.
It did,
I think.
yes.
It won't even be the 250th Randomiser.
It certainly won't. No, that'll be next
appearing.
week, and I'll be back here alone.
Right, okay,
Yes,
good.
looking forward to that.
But, as ever, of course, we'll be hearing from our wonderful Podstrons, many of whom have been listening since day one.
Wow.
They have. Very loyal.
I put a post on Facebook asking who's been with us since the beginning and who has been listening to every single one. And I'll be reading out some comments later, but let's just say a fair few of them have been with us since the get-go.
Well, thank you and well done, and sorry, Podstrons, for all that we put you through.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't matter whether this is your first or your 250th pod.
No.
I'm still very grateful that you're here.
Oh, very grateful.
But in case it is their first,
Yes.
what other things are they expecting? Just a quick fire list.
Well, ordinarily, of course, we would have an interview a little later on in the podcast, but because it's our 250th and because we're here at the Moxy in Slough, that's a little difficult, or are we still going to go for...
There might be an interview, there might not. You'll find out later in the show. How's that?
We're making this up on the fly.
We
Can
really
you tell?
But also, because it's our 250th, to mark our, what is the word, quad millennium? No. I prepared a little quiz for you about the podcast, which our lovely Podstrons can play along with at home as well. Questions about previous pods, guests, and even long-forgotten quizzes.
No.
That can only mean one thing.
Yeah. So we'll come to that a little later on. I think that's covered everything. Fab Facts, news, interview possibly, Randomiser possibly, and, of course, our Podstrons.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Well, I would like to start proceedings with a fab spanner in the works.
Oh,
right.
Dear.
What
is
do you
that
mean?
any relation to Dick?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Possibly in this week's slightly peculiar Fab Facts.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
So, as you know, Fab Facts, every week I have a giant book of Fab Facts.
You do?
And I flick through the book and you shout Fab.
I do.
And my plan was that this week we might even let Chris shout
Oh, yeah,
Fab.
that'd be good.
Well, only with your say-so, obviously. However, I have unfortunately left the book of Fab Facts at home.
Yes! I've waited 250 pods for this. But you mean there's going to be no Fab Facts?
It would not be the Gerry Anderson Podcast without a Fab Fact.
That is true. That
So,
is very, very
worry
true.
not.
Except for all those ones where we didn't have them.
Yeah, apart from that.
Worry not. Everything is fine.
Right.
We're using our special reserve Fab Facts.
Are we? Okay. Yes. Go on.
Which has been selected specifically for this occasion by producer Ben Page, who has come to save the day international rescue style.
Thank goodness.
And so now we're going to have a Fab Fact directly from the pages of my script.
Oh, joy.
I mean, do you want to shout Fab just to get in the spirit?
Chris?
Yeah, all right then.
Okay, over to you, gents.
Fab! Fab!
Yeah, well, we blew that. But yes, so this week's Fab Fact.
Yes.
Well, what a coincidence. Richard James and Chris Dale, your Fab,
Yes.
just then, or your Fab.
We're going to share this Fab.
Yeah,
It's ours to look after.
Yeah.
Your Fab has landed us in 2001,
Oh, right. Space Odyssey.
the dawn of the podcast.
What? Not out.
Not this
No,
podcast.
No. Surely, haven't we going back?
Yes, anyway, how peculiar that should happen for the 250th episode
very
of the
odd.
Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Yeah.
For those of us who are not technically minded, have you ever wondered what a podcast is? I mean, other than
If we don't know by now,
the sound
we're-
thing, people might say an internet radio show.
They might.
But on a technical level, podcasting works rather like a blog. Are you with me so far? So,
I'm prepared to go along
let
with
me
it
continue.
now.
Yes, okay.
when you subscribe to a blog, an automated web feed delivers new episodes to your devices that you subscribe from automatically.
Okay.
So subscribing sounds like it would be a great idea, right?
Right, yes.
Well, the data gets delivered using a system called RSS.
I've heard of that.
Yes? We like an acronym on the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Is that the only thing that's related to
Don't worry,
Gerry
it's going to get better.
Okay,
It's slightly
I see.
better. Slightly
Right,
better. RSS stands for
Yeah.
Really Simple Syndication. Yeah,
Does it?
exactly. It's quite an Anderson acronym in its own right. Okay.
It's taken a while for me to get to that.
Okay, let's hope this gets a little bit better. The idea for RSS goes back to 1995.
Right, does it? Yes.
But it was only beginning to hit the mainstream in the early 2000s when two guys, Adam Curry and Dave Weiner, I think he's a whiner,
yes,
got a hold of it and thought it would be a great idea to mix RSS with audio files and to produce podcasting, which is how you're all listening to this now, unless you're watching it.
Right,
in which case
sure.
That's probably not RSS.
No.
It was the invention of the iPod in 2001 that would give podcasting its name, of course.
Right.
Yeah? You enjoying this school day?
Makes sense.
Enjoying's a bit strong.
Okay. Although others had proposed audio blogging before this, Weiner and Curry were the first to make practical headway. Subsequently, they've sadly fallen out.
Oh
no.
That does happen in the world of podcasting.
And would you believe it, there's a public dispute over exactly who did what.
Oh dear.
Curry, born in 1964 in Virginia,
Yes.
same year as the birth of Thunderbirds, of course.
Of course.
Conceptually, anyway, grew up in the Netherlands and became a music and TV presenter on both Dutch and English broadcasting industry shows.
Right.
He became internationally famous for being a VJ on MTV, virtual,
Video.
sorry. Jockey.
Yeah.
Weiner, born in Queens, New York in 1955, was a software developer, coder and blogger.
Right.
Where's the Anderson connection?
Well, exactly.
Well,
I mean,
It's
I've
coming.
been
I can
waiting.
hear it any moment.
It's been a while.
Well, given their ages and geeky interests, it seems likely that one or both of these gents were fans of Anderson shows. In Adam Curry's case, no evidence has come to light. But in the case of Dave Weiner, he once posted about Space 1999 on Facebook.
He once posted about Space 1999 on Facebook.
In 2016.
And that's the Gerry Anderson connection.
It is. It featured Helena Russell typing madly at a wall-mounted keyboard from Ring Around the Moon.
Okay.
And that is pretty much the end of this one. However, while Weiner could have been merely commenting on how programming is depicted in sci-fi, it seems plausible to suggest that Space 1999 and sci-fi as a whole had an impact on him. Perhaps the idea of comlocks indirectly inspired the very idea of podcasting itself, maybe.
Perhaps.
And if it's true, then podcasting was inspired by a Gerry Anderson show, only to be later hosted on a thing called the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Ah, right.
We've entered a paradox.
Oh, God, no. What do we do now?
Does that mean we have to stay here forever?
Yeah, sadly we're stuck in Slough.
I could always reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.
Would you mind? So what do you think, listeners? Did Dave Weiner and Adam Curry get inspired by Space 1999 to create podcasts or not?
Can I answer that now?
Please go ahead.
No.
Okay, well, that brings us really celebratorily to the end of this week's
Pod Fact! It had to be, didn't it? Had to be a pod fact.
Very nice.
No, well done Ben, and well done, Jamie, for persevering with that.
Yeah, thanks,
Very
Ben.
good.
What a great fan fact. I wish I'd brought my book now.
Yes, well, why didn't you bring the book?
I forgot it.
Oh, I see. Anyway, this is a very celebratory edition of the Gerry Anderson podcast because, dear Podstrons, we've made it to our 250th edition.
Somehow.
I know, it's
by the
incredible.
skin of our teeth.
Yeah, indeed.
Other podcasts have fallen by the wayside. We've kept going.
I know, it's true.
For
It's
a
true.
very long time.
Now, as usual, we are going to be hearing from our Podstrons because they have been emailing us in their
they're always doing
droves.
Amazing.
Gerry Anderson, podcast at gerryanderson.com.
250 episodes in and you're still getting the email
Well,
wrong.
I may have stumbled a little bit over it, but for example, Chris Bowden got in touch to say, "Oh, I hope you're well."
Sorry, Chris Bowden.
Yeah,
He's a huge fan of the show.
Great.
Massive fan of the show.
There we are,
He gets his
Chris.
name wrong,
Yeah.
Ben. And
I
he
beg
worked
your
at Lavender Castle. He's the producer.
Chris
of Lavender
Bowden.
Castle.
Well, he says I was skipping through a certain fruit-based podcast app today.
Right.
Do you know what that might be?
Apple?
On my way to this week's instalment of the Randomiser, when I came across a rather peculiar set of recommendations. You know, if you listen to a certain podcast on certain apps, it tells you what you might also be interested in. Well, he said it suggested that if I liked the Gerry Anderson Randomiser, I might also be interested in a pod about Doctor Who, which is fair enough. Makes
sense.
Yeah, but it also suggested a pod about takeaway food. And not one, but two podcasts featuring BBC Radio's stalwart, The Archers.
Oh.
Now, says Chris, I have nothing against The Archers or takeaway food. In fact, I'm quite partial to that. But don't you think it's an odd connection to make? Have any other podstrons out there seen any weird algorithmic recommendations too? Keep up the good work, chaps. SIG from Chris Bowden.
Thanks, Chris.
Expertly read, I thought. Though.
Beautifully
Yes.
delivered, yeah.
Come across any
I'm sure it happened. Nothing's leaping to mind at the moment.
No.
Ed Gamble and James Acaster's podcast is recommended to listeners of this one.
Is it?
Yeah. And Richard Herring's podcast is also recommended.
Is it?
And Radio Free Scaro, obviously a Doctor Who.
Right, sure.
It was. I had a look earlier, strangely, and it was a very odd mix.
Right.
But not the other Gerry Anderson podcast.
Oh,
about Gerry Anderson,
the other Gerry
Irish
Anderson.
broadcaster.
Yes, okay. Now, it wouldn't be our 250th pod if we hadn't had an email from Phil Steer.
That's not where I was actually going.
What were you thinking?
Simpson slips. But,
There's time.
Phil Steer is always great to hear.
Of course. Phil Steer has got in touch to say, hello, Richard, Jamie, Chris, and all the Podstrons.
Hello, Phil Steer.
I've been meaning to email you for a while, having finished watching all episodes of Thunderbirds on ITVX. Brackets, thank you, Richard, for your instructions on how to send an email in the last podcast. Well, that's just part of my public service remit.
Useful.
Yeah.
One thing that struck me, says Phil, is that I remember some episodes so much better than others. I was born in 1964, so would have watched reruns in the late 60s and 70s. I don't know if this is because some episodes were repeated more often than others, or simply because some episodes were just more memorable. Another thing that occurred to me is that, on balance, I'm glad that Thunderbirds was cancelled.
Controversial. Phil Steer.
Well, he goes on, don't get me wrong. Along with many other Ander fans, it was my favourite Anderson show, and I never missed an episode if I could help it. But 32 one-hour episodes is still a large body of work, and had it continued, we'd likely not have got Captain Scarlet, Joe 90, and the Secret Service, and maybe not even the later live-action shows. Arguably, these may not reach the heights of Thunderbirds, but they provide a much greater variety of things to enjoy. Storyline, environment, characters, machines, music, and the rest. I love peanut butter, says Phil. A bit tangentially, you might think. But he says, I wouldn't want it for every meal. That's the point, you see. Indeed, would the Gerry Anderson podcast be as enjoyable if it was all about Thunderbirds? I think not, says Phil.
Some people would disagree.
Yeah.
Quite a few, I think. Anyway, he says, I'm now working my way through Stingray on ITVX and am enjoying revisiting that too, though 39 half-hour episodes is also a lot of watching. Best wishes to you and all the Podstrons, Phil, brackets, Steer.
Oh,
Thanks, Phil Steer.
thank you.
I'm surprised he was writing into the Gerry Anderson podcast to complain about the amount of Gerry Anderson stuff there is to watch. Though.
I can kind
Bit
of
odd,
see
Phil.
the point, though, that he's trying to make there. I think I said recently, looking back, it's like if you hypothesize about, maybe they did this differently, maybe they did that differently, but it is kind of like a Jenga game. You pull out one bit of history and suddenly everything else comes tumbling down. And as you said, we might not have had Captain Scarlet or even your favourite show there, Joe 90.
Or, heaven
Listeners
forbid,
can't see you're wearing your favourite Joe 90 t-shirt.
Oh, what a shame.
imagine a world without Space Precinct.
Oh, yes.
Of course. Well, in a world without Space Precinct.
Yes. I wouldn't be sat here now.
Exactly. And we wouldn't be filming or recording this podcast.
Oh, I feel like someone's just walked over my grave. Finally, on the email front, our ambassador from the Isle of Wight, Paul Hyde, has been in touch to say, hi chaps, congratulations on reaching pod 250. Wow. I mean, it still seems amazing just to hear that again. They've been brilliant. Last year in Birmingham was fantastic. We podders are overdue a meet-up, seeing it's nearly a year. Is there or are there any plans in the pipeline for a meet-up as it's well overdue? Let's hope we have some news around June or July, suggests Ambassador Paul Hyde. Jamie, I loved the live stream about Joe 90. It was brilliant. Have you broken the cellophane of your Joe 90 Blu-ray yet?
So despite the fact that I'm wearing a Joe 90 t-shirt,
Yeah.
I have not yet broken the cellophane, but I intend to.
Right.
Because in that live stream, if you haven't seen it, Postrons, then I got on a live stream with Jack Knoll, Joe 90 superfan, and we discussed the merits and demerits of Joe 90, and he actually somewhat won me over. I mean, only a few percentage points, but still, I felt slightly more sympathetic to people.
Our boy has seen the light.
To people who like Joe 90.
That's a bombshell for the 250th podcast, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and in celebration of that, I'm wearing my Joe 90 t-shirt.
Good.
But in terms of meetups,
Yes.
I don't think I'm allowed to say yet.
Oh, well.
But can I suggest that Podstrons might want to put a date in their diary? This is a podcast exclusive for the 17th and 18th of June 2023.
No, I'm not available.
Not too far away.
No, I'm washing my hair.
Oh, me too,
Yeah,
actually. But
yeah.
hopefully the Podstrons can get together.
Great.
Yes, there you go. Mid-June. mish and
Yes,
wish
yes.
may
Your
indeed
mission.
be my command.
All for now, but do keep your emails coming in. We love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your reviews, anything you want. Send it into podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I'll try my best to read it out next time.
Amazing.
Yeah, I will.
I'm so pleased you got the email address.
Yeah.
Finally.
I've been practicing.
250 weeks later.
All right.
But we have also had 248 prior weeks of the Gerry Anderson news.
Ooh.
Is that right?
248. So
We didn't do the news in the first episode.
No, because there wasn't much to talk about, was there? Apart from the fact that there was a podcast on its way.
I suppose you could say that was Gerry Anderson news in its own right. But anyway, It's very well formed now. It's well evolved. It's quite mature. So shall we have this week's Gerry Anderson news?
Oh, yes,
Why
please.
Yes, indeed. It's the Gerry Anderson
Newsy news. Imagine there was a time where that phrase didn't even exist.
That warms my
An empty
cockles.
world that must have been.
I've always wanted to do that.
I mean, you can do it.
I can do it in the comfort of my own home, but
That's
it's not
true.
the same.
No, but that was really lovely. Anyway, yes, because there's new stuff.
Every week in the
time.
happening right now. Sorry, yes.
You made that phrase up. Okay,
I've
well,
said it for a while.
Postrons, let's start with the fact that this is our 250th podcast.
Yes.
It seems only right that you find a way to celebrate it. So please, go on social media,
Yeah.
tweet us.
What now?
Now's fine.
Yep.
Him,
Yep.
Richard and James.
Yes.
Him, Chris Darlick. Me, I'm Jamie Anderson.
Yes.
Use the hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast and tell us your favourite thing about the podcast. It could be
Me?
It could be you.
Yeah.
Yes. It could be you, or it could be an interview, or it could be a particular episode you really enjoyed. It could be a plot of peril. Maybe.
It could be. That's a bit of a throwback.
Probably won't be that. It might be a fab fact. Just let us know. Maybe use the hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast 250. So
Okay.
we can find it very specific.
That's good, yeah.
That would be great. We'd love to hear that. And, let us know when you started listening, if the podcast has changed your life in some way, because as we know, we have had our first podcast marriage.
Yes, we have. That's right.
Postrons who met because of this podcast,
Yes.
Wow.
who got married.
Yeah.
Who knows what's next?
Yeah. A podcast birth.
Podcast baby, there could be. Yeah.
Twins or triplets. Imagine.
Yes.
You know what they call it, of course, or them.
Of course, if they were boys, I know exactly what they do.
Yeah, I know I'm stretching it a bit here, but you know what I mean. Yeah,
Well,
that'd be great.
that would be a great honour. I mean, if you
Perhaps they
don't-
would invite us to the christening and we could all do
Yeah.
a podcast live.
Godparents.
Do a fab live from the christening.
pod parents. No, that's a bit. Anyway, if you don't name your child after one of us, then we'll be very upset indeed. Moving on.
I think we should.
Yes.
We've all been enjoying a bit of Keith Shackleton, haven't we?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well,
Very
his,
interesting.
his video series continues on our YouTube channel, where you can also find a documentary on a very special, most special 9-year-old boy.
Oh.
Yes, an hour long.
Really?
Almost hour long. I mean, it certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
It's actually 52 minutes, but a 52-minute long documentary on the making of Joe 90 is available for free
Right.
on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel. Would you believe that?
I would. Do you know? I would believe it.
Because I told you.
Yes.
Yes.
And I have no reason to doubt you.
No, you shouldn't. There's also a live stream with me and Chris Thompson talking about the upcoming Technical Operations Manual, the Project 90 Tech. On the TOM, we call it internally. TOM.
Yes, that's good.
The Project 90 TOM.
Yeah.
So you could go and watch that. I mean, there's so much Joe 90 stuff up there.
Yeah.
It might even convert someone who doesn't
Yeah,
like Joe.
Joe 90 Scrooge. Might see the light.
Scrooge. Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
What did I see? Somebody on the YouTube channel commented, "The little brat and the big rat," which I thought
like that.
was rather lovely. I can go
Okay.
along with that.
Yeah.
Now we are moving warehouse. The Gerry Anderson store is moving to a brand new warehouse. We're not.
Oh,
we
I was
So
gonna
you
say,
don't
do anything.
is that why we're here? You want us to go and...
You brought your car, didn't you? Yeah.
I've got a wheelbarrow.
We're going to a new warehouse down in Dorset. Would you believe?
lovely.
Lovely place, just by the
Again,
sea.
Joe 90 connection. Isn't there?
Is there?
I think.
See if I can
Dorset.
cancel that
Weymouth.
contract. Anyway, so we're going to be moving now. In order to do the move, we want to clear out a few bits and pieces. So you may see some clearance deals arriving on the Gerry Anderson store over the next few weeks, including some recent T-shirt deals. There'll be some other bits and pieces. So do keep an eye out there. And now we're rapidly approaching April.
Oh, yes.
What happens in April?
Easter. Chocolate.
Yeah, and
Is it someone's birthday that we've forgotten?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that guy. You know him.
Right.
Gerry Anderson's birthday, which we have christened
Yes.
Gerry Anderson Day.
Okay, I like what you did there.
It's our 3rd year, is it? I think.
Yeah.
Feels like longer. It feels like it's an important part of the calendar now. So do keep an eye out because we've got all sorts of exciting things happening, haven't we, Richard James?
I don't know why he's nudging me like that.
Well, Anyway, don't don't play the fool. He knows exactly what's going on. We've got some very special stuff.
Don't look at me, I'm not coming in on this one.
We will be announcing it in the coming weeks.
Yes, good.
And you never know, there might also be some merch or some YouTube videos or maybe even some other content around.
Okay, great.
That's all I should really say.
Okay,
I
fine.
suppose.
Sure.
Anyway, that's actually it.
Right.
I kept it nice and neat and tidy.
Yes.
For 250.
Yeah, good.
So, gentlemen, you ready?
Oh, we're going to go for it.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to be part of this. Yeah.
That brings us to the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. 250th news.
Oh,
Hey.
I mean, not strictly speaking, our 250th news.
no, but it was from the 250th podcast.
Yeah,
so it still
okay,
counts.
so we'll let that go.
I thought
Yeah,
that was rather lovely, actually.
yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Fine voice. And
But that doesn't mean to say that I've sung that 250 times. Because I think it took a while to get
Yes,
off the ground and find its feet.
Yeah, I
As
mean-
with all the best,
there was
creative content.
the episode where I sang Newsy News to the Secret Service opening hymn. if
I
you
remember
Ooh.
that. Classic. Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
great.
What pod was that in? Do we know?
No, I don't know. No, that could have been a question in the upcoming podcast quiz that I'm about to bamboozle you with.
my goodness.
But it isn't, so relax.
Phew.
However, I must just say, as we're probably, 25 minutes in, and I've yet even
least.
to mention
Feels like longer.
the fact that you can please subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on.
Yes.
Leave a nice review or a rating. We call it a revating. 5 stars would be great. And also a little word or two about why you like the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Yeah.
Also, you can copy and paste the link to all your social medias so that everyone can see what you're listening to, and just tell your friends how much you love the Gerry Anderson podcast. Particularly,
Or the Gerry Anderson Randomiser podcast, which is also available in the same way.
Yeah,
Which
quick,
is,
quick.
you know,
Yeah, fine.
I'm here, I've got to promote myself.
Yeah, fine. But anyway, the Gerry Anderson podcast, do tell your friends that you're listening to us, because wouldn't it be great to do another 250?
Yeah.
That's the
Well, there's
word.
a bit of a pregnant pause
it'd
there
be
before you
it'd
answer.
be really great.
So imagine getting to our 500th.
That would be.
I mean,
something special.
can I just say what an astounding achievement it has been for all of us, really, and the Podstrons who've stuck with us. 250 episodes every week, a new episode with a new fab fact, a new interview, or part 2 or 3 of an interview,
Yeah, or a
4 or 5 or
story.
6.
Gerry Anderson news every week.
Yes.
And lots of other gubbins. And of course, our wonderful Podstrons. But now, are you ready for a special 250th podcast quiz? All ready.
He did it.
He got it in. Right, okay. Now, here are some
So
questions.
I can see the answers.
Oh, yes. Here are some questions about the podcast. Let's see how well you know your own work. Now, Pod 150 featured an interview with Terrorhawks and Jeremy Hitchin. Okay? It was titled the How Many Voices of Jeremy Hitchin? I'm not going to give you a...
I can guess.
Go on.
Yeah,
I'm going
please
to say
do.
the 1,000
Right.
voices.
Chris?
Well, I was going to say 9 Stein, but that doesn't quite fit.
No, it was 1,000 voices of Jeremy Hitchin, you're right.
99 Stein.
Yeah.
But, disappointingly, none of them were Bruce Forsyth, Trevor McDonald, or Terry
Wogan.
Yes. Don't even do it.
No, we don't. That's true enough. Who was our first ever guest interviewee on the podcast?
Oh, I know that.
Easy.
Chris?
It's 5 miles.
Savannah.
You're right.
Over lunch.
Now, she revealed that the dialogue between her and Ron Cook as Parker in the Thunderbirds 2004 movie was written by which comedy writer? Chris?
Oh.
Him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Richard.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes, Richard Curtis. That's
really
right.
on point.
And now, Chris, this one's for you as well. The very first randomiser
Yes.
featured episode 3 of Torchy the Battery Boy.
Oh, yes.
But who joined Chris to explain how his sparkly new machine would work?
Well, I believe there were 2 people.
Yes.
I can't remember which one of them pressed the button. I suspect it was the lady from
You're
the following
right.
pair
Yes.
of Lieutenant Keith Ford
Yes.
and Colonel Virginia Lake.
Yes, well done. Great.
Yes.
Now, Jamie.
I've never set foot in the building since. So I'll let you back in.
Jamie, you were running late for Pod 9. But why?
Explain yourself, sir.
Wow.
I wanted to know all these years.
Quite a long time ago.
quite a long time ago.
I assume I explained it in the pod and you're not looking for an actual memory explanation.
Oh, well, you probably know.
Is there something being born, a lamb or a dog
Feels
problem?
like too long ago for lambs.
Pod 9.
Yeah, that's too
Very
long.
early days.
Yeah.
But I had been waiting and waiting for your call because we did things slightly differently then.
I can't even remember how we
remember?
did it then. But yes.
You literally used to phone me up.
Did I?
Yes. And I used to record on my little microphone and send you the chip, or rather upload the chip
Oh,
to
yeah.
send you the file. And
Those are the days,
They were.
eh?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
no, I can't.
well, you were running late because you had a conference call at 10 o'clock.
Oh, come on.
Nothing's changed, has it?
No, that was. I was expecting something exciting there.
Something dramatic.
Chris, Pod 24 featured an interview with artist Mike Noble.
Yes.
To what did he attribute his success with the opposite sex as part of his interview?
Did we talk about that? Okay.
Being very good with his hands.
Oh, well, do you know, you're in the right ballpark.
Oh.
Jamie?
Bring it home.
Were they? I don't know. Is his artistic?
To what
skill?
did he attribute his success with the opposite sex?
No idea.
His leather gloves.
Really?
Hey, right.
Mike.
That's all it takes, is it?
Gosh.
Jamie, which was the first pod to feature the opening this episode montage?
I think we left that quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pod 63.
63 says Jamie. Chris?
I'm going to say 100.
Oh no, you're way out.
Yeah.
Pod 54.
Was it that early?
Yes.
wow.
I think it was
Okay.
Jacob Dudman, I think.
Okay.
Which was the first pod to feature the much missed, much lamented, some would say work of genius, Plot of Peril?
Did anybody say any of those things actually?
I think I blotted it out of my memory.
Which was the first pod to feature the Plot of Peril?
So Plot of Peril was
It was
introduced
not
as a temporary replacement for Fab Facts, was it? They weren't...
No, there was nothing temporary about it. As it turned
Okay.
out, there was. But the intention was not that it was
Odd.
to be temporary.
Since I got 100 wrong last time, I'm going to stick with 100 again.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm going 84.
You're going 84!
Oh.
Well, Plot of Peril first featured on pod 69.
Wow.
But, gentlemen, how long did it last? Which was the last pod to feasure Plot of Peril?
I wish it was 69.
If it started in pod 69, when do you think I just gave up the ghost and threw in the towel?
It wasn't long.
80.
81.
Oh.
There's one in it. One of you is right.
Okay.
Chris Dale.
Hey! Well done,
Yeah,
Chris.
pod 82. It ran for 11 podcasts.
Wow.
It's not a lot. Is it?
No, and actually, I think we used to do it every other week as well. So.
Yes. Right, so there were basically 5 of them.
Now, as we have alluded already, Fab Facts did have a bit of a rest in the early
Yes.
days, if you remember. No?
Can't remember that.
I want to know, in which pod did Fab Facts come back?
Oh.
Oh, dear.
59.
59 says Jamie?
I'm going to stick with 100. I haven't done right yet.
No, and you're not right this time either. Now, Fab Facts actually came back in pod 73.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, this is absolutely fascinating content, I
Yes.
must say.
It's a celebratory podcast about the podcast.
Yes, it's very meta.
The podcast is eating itself, isn't
I
it?
can hear people on the edge of their seats right now.
All right. Well, this will wake them up. Pod 85 featured an anagram edition of Quickfire 5, if you remember Quickfire 5.
Oh, yes.
The anagrams were 4 series titles and a character name. So I'm going to give you these anagrams once more. See how much you remember. You ready for these anagrams?
I've always wanted to do a quick 5. I think this is as close as I'll get.
Chris Dale, this is for you. Number 1, Ancestral Delve. Ancestral Delve.
Ancestral Delve.
Don't look at
Jamie,
me.
feel free to help me
Oh,
out.
no, this is over for you, Chris. No
Now you know
problem.
how I used to feel on Quickfire 5.
Was it a series or a character?
This is a series, I'll give you that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, this is tough, isn't
Isn't
it?
it?
Yes. Lavender Castle.
Well done.
I was trying to think which series had a D and a B in it.
A D and a B.
Yeah.
Jamie, Wart Shaker.
Terrorhawks?
Yes!
Ooh.
Well done. Chris, Skeptic Prance.
I've seen you do that.
Skeptic Prance, yeah.
Is this a series still?
It's a series.
It is.
Captain Scarlet? No! Space Precincts!
Yes, of course it is. Jamie, this one's especially for you. I think you thought of this originally.
Did I?
It's got your mark all over it. Hangover Titties. Yes, you said that on the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Hangover Titties. Because you said it then, I feel free to say it again now.
I don't really know. That's really tickled me, that. What is it? I don't know.
It's The Investigator.
Oh, of course it is.
And finally,
I would never have guessed
No. Willow Lambden Smith asked, I'd like to ask everyone what your favourite podcast moments have been. Favourite podcast moments?
Yeah.
It's got to be the live podcast, surely. It's got to be Birmingham and it's got to be Leicester at Space Centre.
I think the first one was something pretty special because we're doing this. I'm certainly doing this in isolation for the most part.
Only because we like it that way.
Oh yeah, I know. I understand. It's fine. But to discover firsthand that they're actually out there, people listening to this and enjoying this, and for whom I think through lockdown there was some people saying that it sort of kept them sane through lockdown. I don't know how we keep anyone sane, but it was just really nice to have people coming up to you and saying, "Thank you. We are listening and we appreciate it," and that was something I wasn't expecting. So, say that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the podcast Curries. I think outstanding moment for me. Whenever we do manage to meet in person, we often go out for a curry afterwards.
I'm making my tongue rumble thinking about it.
That's a highlight for me.
No, the curries are great.
Outstanding podcast moment for you, Jamie?
Oh, there's been so many really lovely interviews, but I have to say, actually, Matthew Sweet, the interview I did with Matthew Sweet, because it was so enlightening. Because Matthew is so smart, so worldly, and has got such an interesting analytical brain. He drew stuff out of me that I wasn't really thinking about, and he connected some dots and came up with some great kind of analyses, and I just really enjoyed that conversation. But it is the chance to have those sorts of conversations over and over again, be it with Matthew or Samira Ahmed and Kevin Fong, or John Coleshaw, or Nicholas Briggs, Sophie Aldred,
Charlotte Serple,
although I didn't have that one myself, of course.
No.
David Quantick.
Terry Christmases.
So many Terry Christmases.
Oh, yes.
Can't not mention
Standout podcast moments.
Yeah.
Terry Christmases, of course. That's right.
Gosh, yeah. But all of those. There's so many. And, you know, any opportunity to get together is really, really nice. But it's still nice to have a kind of regular go-to happy place for us to record in. It's not just about the listening experience, is it? It's actually
it's all about us, isn't it?
It's a nice thing to do for us.
Yeah,
We're not exactly slaving away every week. Well, I mean, Chris is, but
Chris is.
in his pyjamas though.
Obviously,
Sometimes I get
Yeah, it's all lovely.
For you, Chris, this is a character. Number 5. Finally, horrible bun.
Bun as in cake, or as in
B-U-N, as in...
not as in a posterior.
Not bum.
Okay.
No, B-U-N.
I think the H and the B sounds in that
Horrible
are
bun.
leading me in a certain direction. This chap here, in
Yeah,
fact.
yes.
I think it's Hubble on.
Yes, well done! There you are, and that leads to the end of this week's Reminiscence. Quick fire 5. Well done. Very good. How did that feel?
That was fun. Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. Okay.
Fun.
More of a
Some more
slow
of that.
fire 15.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, it's nice to look back and yes.
It is.
Be interested to see what listeners' favourite moments are in the podcast.
Well,
a lot of
you
them.
can bet it was Hangover Titties. That's for
yes.
sure.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Oh dear. Have you got messages?
I've got lots of messages. We can either head on over to our Facebook group and see what our wonderful Podsterons have been doing over there, or I did ask them to send us any comments or questions they might have. I simply said, we're recording Pod 250. What have you always wanted to know about Jamie, Chris and I, but we're afraid to ask? So do you want to hear that, or do you want to hear some generic Facebook posts?
Well, you're not really selling the generic Facebook posts. Let's answer some questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like question time now, isn't it?
Simpsons Clips 24 says, I'd like to know if Chris knows the answer to this conundrum. Ready?
Okay.
If the square on the hypotenuse equals the sum of the square on the other two sides, why is a mouse when it spins?
Never did understand the answer to that one.
good.
Nice.
Bit off topic, but very good. Apparently, Paul Hyder's. The answer is green. In Paul Hyder's world.
Yes.
Brilliant.
That's Paul Hyder from China chipped in. Simon McCann wants to know what's easier, live or recorded podcast?
Recorded because I can do it in my pyjamas.
Yes.
That's true.
Thank goodness you didn't turn up in those
Or
tonight.
with no shirt if it's very, very hot.
Right.
I'll admit to that.
We've never done a naked podcast before.
No.
Maybe that's for 500.
Give it time.
Yeah, something special.
Recorded or live?
Well, I can't be late for a live, so the lives have been high pressure.
Yeah.
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 It's nice to see everybody.
Yeah,
Of course it is. Tom Hodden says, Jamie has mentioned before how much his dad would have loved to have made a Bond movie, but which Bond film does he feel best suits Gerry's style of storytelling? That's to both of you.
Actually.
Chris, what do you think?
I mean, Moonraker's an obvious go-to because of the connection there.
There's so many Bond films. Obviously, Derek Meddings is a huge influence on a lot of them, but I think the fact that you've got the whole of the 80s run of films directed by John Glenn, I think that adds a lot, and you see a lot of his Bond directorial touches in Space Precinct.
Yes.
But I'm gonna say Skyfall. Actually,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a lot of elements of Skyfall that Dad would have really got on with. So
Was he a Bond fan particularly?
not enormously, but he wasn't really a fan of anything.
Yeah, right.
Anybody else's work, like,
Right.
he'd really
Yeah.
watch a lot of other stuff and say, in fact, I'm sure we've got a quote of him saying, "I'm not a fan of anything."
Right.
So
There you go.
there you go.
Yeah. Yes, Gary Hodgkinson says, well, I can't say I'm any good with questions, but happy Pod 250 Fab Trio.
Oh, thank you.
Nice, isn't it? Do you want to read some out, Chris, if I hand this to you? Start from there with something
This is
Steve
from
Carson.
Stephen Carson.
Yes.
If you could interview or meet up with a member of the Anderson Universe alumni, crew, actor or artist, alive or dead, who would it be and why? Note, it has to be human, so no choosing Zuni, Oink or Torchy.
Right.
Gosh. Cast all crew.
I was thinking about this since I saw it on the Facebook group the other day. I met a lot of people from the Anderson Universe, but one person that I never met and I've heard nothing but good things about was Mr. Ed Bishop. I would have liked to have met Mr. Ed Bishop or Barry Morse.
Yes.
My mum met Barry Morse.
Yep.
I never did. So,
Yep.
there we go.
Good choice.
Yes, I would go for Barry Morse or Martin Landau, I think,
I
actually.
met Martin Landau.
Yes,
Yes.
I'd like to meet Martin, or have met Martin Landau. I feel very privileged, really, because I did meet a lot of the people that we've had featured on the podcast, previously, interviews and so on. The likes of Christine Glanville, of course, Gerry, and John Glenn you've just mentioned. So I'm quite fortunate. I've already ticked a few of them off in a professional capacity, I suppose.
Yeah.
Tick them off.
Yes, I really did. I told them. No, that's not the way to
Never
shoot
worked
Space
with you
Precincts.
since.
No, exactly. Give me more to do.
Yeah.
Didn't work. How about you, Jovi? Who would you choose?
Well, it's two people we've actually had on the podcast but are no longer with us. I would love to have had a chance to sit with Richard Gregory and Christine Glanville and talk to them with everything that we know now from this point of view, talking about everything from Christine's early days and all the puppet shows through to working with Richard where they had a crossover time because they got on so well. That would have been a really lovely sort of dual interview. And yeah, it makes me rather sad actually that in my kind of 10-year-old state I was sitting between them in the workshop and never really taking in all the stuff. I mean, you wouldn't do it at 10, but all that sort of feels like a missed opportunity. So I wish I had a little time machine and could pop back with an audio recorder and listen to what they said because they were great.
Well, perhaps now is the perfect opportunity to dedicate this podcast, being our 250th, to those that we've lost since we started 5 years ago.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's the state of things, isn't it? It's the nature of things that people get older and we lose them. And it does seem in the last 5 years that we've lost quite a few of them, young and old.
Yes.
So let's dedicate this to them, shall we?
Absolutely. If I had a glass, I'd raise it.
There you go.
Ed Tipton asks, which one of you is the best cuddler?
The best cuddler? Well, I think Chris is the best cuddler. Wow. For sure.
Very cuddly sort of fellow.
Absolutely,
Yes.
yeah. I'm not sure that's strictly Gerry Anderson related,
No,
but...
we want to stick to the Gerry Anderson question.
Well,
If we could.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan Bell asks, will Jamie dress up in Joe 90 cosplay at the next live podcast recording?
I mean, I'm
He's
not
already
far
doing
off
it.
now. I'm in a Joe 90
this is
t-shirt.
live for us. We're here
Exactly,
now.
yeah.
Joe 90 cosplay would consist really of a wig and the glasses, wouldn't it?
Well, and this annoying little grey weird suit thing
Okay.
that he wears. It's sort of grey dungarees.
So this thing that you mentioned may be happening in June.
Yeah, I'm not cosplaying as Joe there.
Really?
I might cosplay as a big rat.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Let's see.
For Richard, how many times in Pod 250, I'm sorry to bring this up.
Right,
I
yes.
know we're touching on sensitive area here.
Go on.
Will you mention coming second on the Space Precinct list?
Now, Chris,
I edited this.
I know you did. I
so
know.
I have to apologise.
How dare you? Enil Kamada, number 2.
Yeah, we won't hear the end of it.
No, you're forgiven. No, it's fair enough. It's fair enough.
Oh dear. And for Chris Dale, who did you prefer that narrated Thomas the Tank Engine? Ringo Starr or Michelangelis?
Go on. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I watched it as a kid, and I enjoyed both of them. I think, I saw a couple of Ringo Starr series and a couple of Michelangelis series.
Come on, he's trying to...
Ringo Starr.
Ringo Starr, there you go.
It's just
good.
effortlessly, he sounds so...
Excellent.
Yes.
There you go.
Stephen Carson, follow-up question.
Right.
We all know that Jamie first met Richard James on the set of Space Precinct.
That's true.
But this is interesting. I'm going to see if you remember. When and where did Chris meet Richard and Jamie?
Did I first meet you the same place I first met Jamie again at Brit Sci-Fi in 2013? No, you weren't there.
No, I was not there.
I think...
Do you know?
I know.
Oh.
Yes.
Like, first met
Yes.
Chris. I want to say when we were recording the first series of Terrorhawks, actually.
You're in the
person.
right area. Because I think we first met online. You were following me on Twitter for some reason.
Was I?
Yeah, I don't know why. But I met both of you for the first time at AntCon 2014.
Oh.
So yes, that was where we met for the first
I
time.
see.
And then I came up to you, I think I had to tap you on the back while you were sort of being asked questions by...
Being told to move along by
saying,
security.
really enjoyed your dad's work. Oh, and by the way, how's that script for Terrorhawks that I sent in coming along? And that was where you put it together. And nearly 10 years ago now.
Isn't that amazing?
My goodness, yes.
Any more?
Quite a few.
Go on.
Keith Wickenden, do you
Yes.
think Gerry would be proud of all you guys have achieved over 250 pods? What would he say to you if he could?
I mean, this is one for you, Joe.
I think he'd say, why are you wasting your time doing that bloody podcast? Almost certainly.
Here's the thing then. So if Gerry had still been around, when we had launched the Gerry Anderson podcast, would he have been a part of it in any way?
Yes.
He would. Do you think every week?
At a distance.
So more of a sort of production producer, hands off, or would he be in there?
What he'd want, I think, is if people sent in questions, that he could record his segment at home in his office, in his own time, send it in, and that'd be that.
A bit like those little sort of the look-in
bits.
pages.
Yeah.
Ask Gerry Anderson.
Exactly that,
Yeah.
but in podcast form.
Gosh, that'd be nice.
Andy Morris asks, when will our suffering end?
Yes.
I'm sorry you're suffering, Andy.
Yes. It's a fair question.
Get well soon. We were discussing earlier how long this is going to keep going for. Pod 1000, I believe, was mentioned, or
Pod
Pod 5000.
Yeah.
Yes, it'll be very old by then.
In a similar vein, Alex Pass says, how long did you imagine you'd keep doing this? Did you think it would keep going this long, or had you imagined one episode of Torchy and we'd all do a run-up?
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't think we would be here this
long.
No. I thought, maybe this will go for 10 weeks tops. And
I figured a year would be a good run, but certainly not 5.
No.
5 years is... Yeah, people get less for aggravated assault.
Do they?
Yes.
So,
You mean I could have hit you over the head the first time we met and I'd be out by now?
Yeah, exactly.
wow.
I just thought it'd be open-ended. I don't think I had a sort of a target in mind. I suppose it was all depending on how many Podstrons would actually listen.
And here we are, thousands of them listening.
Yeah. So plenty more of that coming up a little later on. But I mean, this is all very fluid today because we're here for the 250th podcast.
Yes.
So things are a little bit different. We're looking back over our perhaps favourite memories, and that may mean that we don't have some features that people are used to.
Oh dear.
Now, what's happening with the interview, Jamie?
So what's going to happen right now is that you'll listen to the podcast, you're going to hear Andrew E.C. Gaska Part 3. If you want to hear us have a chat about the 250 episodes we've done before and our favourite things and memories and challenges, etc., then you'll need to watch the YouTube video. So search for Gerry Anderson Podcast 250 on YouTube and then you'll find it. So
you're encouraging our listeners to double dip. It's not something that a lot of consumers enjoy, being forced to double dip.
you can
Don't Google that.
You can scrub forward to the interview part. So, if you're listening to the podcast, then you know what's coming.
Yes.
It's Andrew E.C. Gaska, the man behind To Everything That Was, and Aftershock and Awe, that's coming out very, very soon. He's worked as a canon consultant for all sorts of stuff. And so here's part 3 with Andrew E.C. Gaska.
So basically, they were like, okay, that's not an eagle. That's not the gun. That's not this. I'm like, yeah, but you guys printed this. You approved this in the 70s. Like, well, we're not approving it now. So I was like, all right, we'll go in and we'll fix it. That's fine. I found artists that could draw in the style of the other guys who'd done the original work, and we added art pieces. And then we were told, okay, you can't use Martin Landau or Barbara Bain's likeness. So you got to go in and make sure that every single one of these looks like Koenig and Helena, but doesn't look like Martin and Barbara. Like, okay then.
It's amazing, isn't it?
People don't know that these things go on behind the scenes. They're like, wait, well, that looks nothing like Martin Landau. Well, there's probably a good reason for that, unfortunately.
No, exactly. But it's just such a strange beast. And these attitudes change over the years and all sorts. But you were stuck with this anyway.
Yes. This is what was going on in 2008. So the idea came that, okay, we have a bunch of this stuff that we have. Why don't we take the best of it and construct an overarching story? Because again, then they had someone there who knew their Space 1999 stuff, who would chime in every now and then and say things like, Koenig would never call Victor Dr. Bergman. Clearly, he wouldn't. But he did in the comic back then, because the writers and artists back then were given a bunch of still photos. They were given the drafts of the scripts that weren't even filmed. So drafting changes, people's names changes, and all this other stuff. And they were told, go make a comic book. Nobody even had VHS at home.
No. Just so little access. I mean, this is the same for TV21 in the 60s. You know, they would go do things that were wildly out of character just because they just didn't have the reference of what they should be doing.
And these comics had great stories, but they weren't quite the Space 1999 we knew in regards to the characters. So I was looking at it and I was like, okay, with a little tweaks to the dialogue, we can bring this in so that these stories work still. And why don't I add an extra layer to this by adding the equivalent of, Koenig's logs, basically. And so it's the equivalent of a voiceover in Koenig's head about what this means, ties things into other things of the mission and the mission, the years-long journey, and makes things feel like it all means something together. And so that's what I decided would have to be our second book, and we would have to wait to possibly do a third season at some point in the future. So the first book came out and it did really well, so much that, the publisher was like, yeah, let's put out. Okay, so I'm not a publisher. Okay, that's another thing. I'm what is called a book packager.
Yep.
And I always tell people it doesn't mean I put books in boxes and seal it up for you.
That's book packer. Close. Yeah.
Yeah. It means that I basically get a project to a certain point where it's mostly done, then shop it around to a publisher who is like, oh, this is mostly done. We don't have to do any work. Sure, we'll publish this.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And then get part of the profits from that, and so there was still the possibility that the publisher was going to say, sorry, we're not doing the second book.
Yep.
The first book came out, did well. They're like, oh yeah, let's do the second book. And we did the second book a year later, and that was To Everything That Was, which was the collection. And that sold out immediately. It was ridiculous. It's like, to this day, I still have fans contacting me on that book saying, hey, I have Aftershock and Awe. I never was able to find this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, sorry, I have 2 left. One on my shelf and one just in case.
Yeah.
So I used to sell them privately, but it's like eventually I ran through them. But we really sold out. That book was gone. And you look on Amazon, and every now and then someone wants $300 for one.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. So when I was able to connect with you, I was like, there's a huge demand for this book. We need to get this out there again.
Absolutely. And so we have. So we're now in the position, which is great, of being able to put these things back out there after they've been out of print for like nearly a decade. I mean, certainly they were released about 10 years ago, right? So
yeah, 2012 and 2013. So yeah, it's been a decade.
Yeah, there you go. So a lot of time has passed. They're not going out in the exact same way as they were presented
Okay.
So what's the difference? Starting to everything that was, because that's already out on the pre-order. What are we doing? What are we adjusting? What are we adding to that release, Drew?
Well, we had one more story from the look-in books that was mostly restored, and actually it was colored. Okay, it just needed the tweaks to the dialogue still. So it was restored and colored for the first time, and it's an 8-page story called Return of the Varkons, I believe is what it's called. And when I saw the solicitation for the book back in 2013, I was like, guys, this is 8 pages too short. And they're like, oh, well, you're stuck with that now because that's what we told the printer. So we pulled Varkons out of the book. So we're able to give you that now when we would never be able to give it to you before. And we're putting in there a bunch of material on what was planned for season 3. So you're going to see what a 30-year later continuation of Space 1999 was planning to be. And I'm really excited about that because I'm hoping that we get a really good feedback on that and people want to see it. And then maybe we can make that happen, because...
Well, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. The Anderson Club is the place to do stuff like this, clearly. You guys have tapped into the fandom in a great way. I almost wish that we had this relationship back then because I'm wondering how much better the book would have done.
Well, we didn't have the audience. I mean, I've got to say the fan base now and the fans worldwide. The numbers are growing all the time. Everyone's so passionate and they're so appreciative of being able to re-access this material and all the kind of presentation and stuff. So the timing is right. The timing, it couldn't have happened back then, Drew, but it's happening now. So that's the key thing.
Isn't that a bit crazy? Like there has been no video content for Space 1999. There's been Howie's media has done novels, which are great, but it's like there's almost nothing, and yet you guys are having more and more fans every day. It's something enduring and endearing about the original source material.
Enduring and endearing is a great motto, perhaps, for Alice and stuff in the past. So for anyone who has already bought our UFO comic anthology or the Fireball comic anthology, this is in the same format, hardback presentation, and they can pre-order it now. Aftershock and Awe, which is coming up, for pre-order in a couple of months from now.
What?
So give me a kind of a rundown of that. This is the extended breakaway story plus what happened back on Earth to tie in. So it gives you the complete kind of lunar and terrestrial breakaway story.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that it was based on the 3-hour version of the plot of the pilot, but it's actually, there's even more than that because there's questions in Space 1999. Where did this character come from? Like Tony, who's a major part of season 2, but it's like, where the heck was this guy in season 1? And and a lot of anomalies that I was like, you know what, I can set things up in this story that makes it, oh, okay, well, of course that's why he was there, or this was that. One of the biggest things was Shermeen Williams, who in a single throwaway episode of the second season, there's this girl who everybody, and it's clear she's 16 from the way the dialogue is and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. If you say at the beginning of the episode, Helena says, it's been X amount of days since we left Earth. Why was a 10-year-old on the moon?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah. So I had a school trip to the moon happening during breakaway. And Shermeen was one of the only survivors from the school group. So,
dog, Drew. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's been 1999. Have you ever seen Dragon's Domain? I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
I'm lucky she didn't get spit out like in cobwebs, But man, that episode frightened the hell out of me as a kid. The Dragon's Domain, that one eye thing, and just here, let me roll you out without skin. And
it was a great monster, but yeah, wouldn't be allowed now by standards and practices if it was going to be out in kiddie viewing hours. Absolutely not. Okay, so you're setting up a lot of threads which then play out in the show. So there's a kind of joy of revisiting these opening stories because if you know the year 1 and 2, then you're going to get a payoff when rewatching it, or just because you know the stories already, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, yeah. Also, as it turned out, there was never a proper full adaptation in comics of Breakaway. Like the first issue of the Charlton book did it in 8 pages. Okay. And it was like, oh yeah, this happened real fast. It was like it was just like, hey, if you didn't see the show, this is it. All right, just now read our comics. And there was I want to say it's called Power Records, but they used to do a comic that came with a record. It was like a read-along thing. Yeah. They did it for Star Trek. They did it for Space 1999. And Neil Adams Continuity Studios was actually responsible for that stuff, which is another thing I need to point out. The amazing talent that worked on the Space 1999 comic is crazy. It's like all these people who went on to do all these other great things. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle with this. So there was that, which again, that was a bridge to fit the record size because it was those small records, so it was never a full comic adaptation. So I said, well, let's take the parts from everything, match art styles, add in the extra material, add in the stuff about season 2, and give people the first full, complete look of what Breakaway could have been. And plus add some science to why the hell the moon suddenly leaves orbit and is scooting around the galaxy.
Good luck with science, and that's true. Those two things seem quite...
Well, with quantum mechanics and everything, you can kind of get away with it.
Okay. We'll see. Okay, so just so much more depth in terms of the physical happenings, the characters back home. It's a deep dive into. It's not quite a prequel, but it's a kind of parallel pilot, maybe.
Yeah, we're going to make a new term now. I like that parallel.
Let's not. Like expanded pilot, we'll say for now.
Okay.
So that's cool. So I'm looking forward to that. So, in terms of what you might have done then, had this all carried on back then, and therefore maybe what we could do, maybe in the coming years.
It is up to customers.
It is up to people, up to fans to invest in these, and we can see where we can go. But like you say, you had season 3 or year 3 kind of planned out, and people are going to get a hint of that into everything that was. Is there any one particular thing that you really wanted to do with that year 3 idea that you could, put as like the most interesting or the most exciting, or just something that would really speak to young Drew watching the show back in the late 70s, early 80s?
The funny thing is that Victor was removed because the producers said that the young viewers don't relate to old guys. And the first thing I thought was, wait, where the hell is Victor?
Yeah.
When I was watching it as a kid.
Great loss.
And that's even when I was falling asleep all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, why isn't he in this one? Because I didn't see it all, and I didn't realize he had been replaced. I was just like, oh, he's not in this one. It was disappointment each time.
Yeah, of course.
And Barry is just was such a great acting talent. And he brought so much warmth.
He was great. Yeah. Something kind of avuncular, some expertise, some comfort, some philosophy. He was the Doctor Who character of Space 1999, the one that you would trust. And so to remove that, it did feel like a great loss. So in my head, there has to be a way to bring him back and explain what happened. That feels organic. Yeah. And we went over a million different ways to do this because it kept feeling forced. It kept feeling like you just want this guy back. And I wanted to feel organic. I think we were able to accomplish that, but we're not giving the details of that in the back of the graphic novel here. We're saying we're giving you the equivalent of these are here's the characters, here's the premise of where the series is going to go, and here's some TV guide blurbs of what the episodes would have been, because we want to still bring this to everybody if possible. So we're not going to give away everything, but getting Victor back and explaining what had happened and making it feel organic, that was super important. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, fine. I'm hooked. I want to know. So we'll have to find a way to make it happen. So there you go. Well, I hope people are excited about these. I am. I think they're going to look great on the shelf. They're going to be great to kind of dive back into, and all the restorations and the colorized stuff that's in into everything that was. It's a great collection. Just very, very briefly, Drew, before we wrap things up, what in terms of everything that was, how did you go about selecting what strips made it into that collection? What's the aim, and what will people come away with from reading that sort of part anthology?
So there were a lot of themes that were reoccurring in all these books that had nothing to do with each other. What do you call it? So there was a lot of android stories, and I was able to find a way. Hey, could these 4 android stories that have nothing to do with each other actually be linked to make a saga that ties into the beginning? And so that's what I went about trying to do with this stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of Robotech, and Robotech basically took 3 separate animes who had nothing to do with each other, and they got the rights to bring them over here, and they rewrote the story so that it made sense as one giant thing in order to get into syndication because there weren't enough episodes.
Yeah.
So I kind of took that approach with this stuff. It's like, I'm not gonna. I don't want to ruin the spirit of what this story was. I'm not gonna. If the reveal was he's got a gun, it's not gonna now be he's got a sword. Okay, the reveal will be the same. The point of where we're going, the lesson will be the same. However, it now fits in the universe in regards to the way they're speaking.
Yeah,
and it also tells part of that bigger story arc. So
nice.
So it was a lot of wrestling.
Yeah, I bet. Try and make that fit because they're not that malleable, those stories and those strips, in order to try and connect them. So yeah, a lot of heavy lifting on your part.
There's one story that ends that I really enjoyed the story. Space Seed, I think it's called. It's called Seed for sure. I think it's Space Seed, but it's the story of the comics, and it ends, and I was like, wait, is this missing a page or two? Because it just seems like there was no resolution. So we actually wrote an ending to that one. That's the only one that was given new art pages completely. It's got 2 new art pages that wraps that story up.
Awesome.
But in most cases, it actually worked really well without having to do that. But one of the fun things we did that's also in these books and was in the original one released 10 years ago, but never was in the comics, was create the credit sequence, but in comic form.
Right.
So, the September 13th, 1999, that whole thing. So you will have the teaser part of the comic, and then you'll get to that picture of Koenig, 3/4 picture of, exactly, all that, that whole thing. And you can, I was told by readers, you could hear the music when you read these 2 pages.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great.
So it was all about bringing love of the series to the series. And the only important thing I feel like I haven't covered that I need to definitely say about this is that it was never intended to supplant what came before.
No.
It's really easy actually to get those old issues on eBay. And if there was a new reprint edition, that would be great as well.
Couldn't possibly comment on
that. At the contrast. It'd be interesting to look at the contrast between, everything.
Yeah.
But we're like, we only have these, instead of putting out 16 volumes of reprints, which was what the plan was, we have this one book, we're making it a best of, and we have this opportunity because of the changes they want to actually make it fit into the mythos better.
Yeah.
So it was a new project.
It's amazing. And as you say in the blurb, it kind of links, it bridges the gap between year 1 and 2, right? That's if that's the feeling you want people to walk away with, that's how it feels so organic to work within the series mythos, as you say. So, but I think there's a lot of people who are excited about it. I am too, and who knows where we might go in the future. Drew, if people want to find you on social media or online and follow you and ask you questions and like the things that you say and post, etc., where can they do that?
The easiest place is Facebook. My personal account is Andrew E. Gaska. I prefer people to go to my personal account because I will see their messages. Just if you're messaging me, don't randomly message me without sending me. Don't randomly friend me without sending a message saying, "Hey, I have a Gerry Anderson question" or something like that. Yeah. Because I don't know if you're spam or what. But as long as I get something like that, I will answer your questions. I love interacting with fans.
Amazing.
I'm at over a dozen conventions a year. So I meet with people in public. So if you follow my blog, which is roguereviewer.wordpress.com, I list when my conventions are coming up, or maybe I'll be in your area. The proverbial you, not you, specifically.
You're not coming to Wales Comic Con anytime soon, I'm guessing.
Unfortunately not, no. But I would. I mean, if someone would have me. Yeah, I'm on Twitter also. It's easy to find me. But those are the two things that people should pay the most attention to.
Okay, awesome. I'm sure they will. I'm sure you'll get some messages and requests in due course. And hopefully in a couple of months' time, some people who are very happy to have read to everything there was and will be eagerly anticipating Aftershock and Awe. So, Drew, it's been really great chatting. Thank you for letting me pick your brains and taking us on a whistle-stop tour of your life and career so far. And here's to everything that still might be, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew.
There. Nice.
So, end of whatever you've just experienced.
If you've been listening to the podcast, then that would have been
Andrew E.C. Gaska Part 3.
If you're watching us on YouTube, then that would have been just us
having
answering questions and gassing about Gerry Anderson.
Yeah.
Fine.
But regardless,
you enjoyed both.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To Everything There Was is available to pre-order from the Gerry Anderson store at ander.sun/TETW.
Now, when is that out?
I can't tell you that, Chris.
Okay.
Soon. But I can't tell you when.
Okay.
Anyway, have you got any more things you want to read out?
Sure. Well, look, let's tip our hats to our wonderful official Gerry Anderson Podcast listeners Facebook group.
Oh, yes.
Otherwise known as the Podstrons. A wonderful group, community of like-minded fans. Mm-hmm. I think we're up to 955. Oh, I know, I desperately want to get to 1,000 by Christmas.
And you personally vet every single one of them, don't you?
Yeah. We didn't make it 1,000 last Christmas, but I'm giving you a bit of grace, giving you another year to get to the magic 1,000. Roger Smith, for example. Now, he gave us a heads up on the Facebook group about the Cromford Mills sci-fi model and costume display. Oh, he says it's on Sunday the 13th of August, 2023. Always a great day out, so count me in, says Roger. So if you're in the area, do pop along.
I saw that Graham Bleethman's going to be going to that. So
excellent.
If you want to go and get some of your Graham Bleethman artwork signed.
Yes, easy for
assuming he's there.
Right.
I may have made that up.
Okay, fine. Keith Gooch, who we know and love, of course, says, well, the post has been, and my latest eBay bargain has arrived. A Professor Popkiss marionette from Pelham Puppets from 1961.
Ooh, that's nice.
Isn't it? I've enclosed the label in the second photo, which he posted on the group, to show that the show was never called Supercar. It was always Mike Mercury in Supercar. Right. That's another Pelham Puppet, says Keith, added to my collection. Charlotte, you had a Pelham Puppet. We still have that somewhere, I think, don't we?
Yeah.
But it's not a Gerry Anderson related. No, sadly. Put a wig on it and just say it is.
Yeah. Nice try.
Yeah. David Hollis says, on a podcast there was talk about ideas for modern day uniforms. Yes, we've been talking about this recently, about updating uniforms, the classic uniforms and what that might look like. And, sorry, my screen's just gone a bit weird. I don't quite know why. There is a nice lady on the Potter's Arm, says David, that lives in the USA. Her name is Jedi, and this lady's been playing with that idea for a while. So over a few weeks now, this image is the first print that we've made of her design. It's a new wasp uniform for Bones. Oh. She said, look into his modern day rank and add that to his uniform. So we've made this uniform as a t-shirt so we can go to events. I think it looks great. It's not been over-designed. Jedi, you've done magic work. I hope Rich and Jamie like your ideas. And this also shows that Anderson shows are worldwide and the love comes from around the world. Thank you.
They are indeed.
That's nice. Kevin Sharp says, I visited the Museum of Brands today. Yes. It was nice to see the worlds of Gerry Anderson were well represented. It acknowledges that the shows were part of the fabric of popular culture for many years. If you're in the West London area, it's certainly worth a visit.
It is indeed, yes. I went there last year.
Where is it specifically, do you know?
I can't remember.
Hammersmith, sort of? West London? What, Ealing? No?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
But if you want to go and admire some Almond Loyster bubble bath, that's the place to go.
Oh, yes. Who doesn't?
They've got stuff from every Anderson show from Twizzle onwards through to, I think it might be as far as Space Crusade.
Yes. Great. Hugh Porter put up one of those polls up on the Facebook group. He says, so which do you prefer when listening to the Anderson Entertainment audiobooks, narrator or full cast audio, i.e. no narrator? I'm curious because I eventually want to create my own audiobooks, not Anderson-related content, says Hugh, but I was thinking which is better and wanted to get an opinion from the Podstrons. Also, it might be handy information for upcoming audiobooks for Anderson Entertainment. So here are the results of that poll. Narrator only garnered 3% of the vote.
Oh.
Full cast audio, 32%. But hybrid, i.e. a mix of both, 65%.
Really?
That's quite surprising.
That's really surprising.
Not a scientific poll, just want to point that out. But yeah, that's interesting.
Noted.
Finally, for now, Lee Homer says, hello all. After taking a break from the Anderson catalogue, I thought I'd ease back into it with some shows that I'd never fully watched in their entirety. The first was The Secret Service, which I absolutely loved from start to finish. And now I'm coming to an end of my first full Terrorhawks watch through, and it's certainly something.
Oh, come on, Lee.
No, he says, I used to hate this outright after watching a handful of episodes, but upon rewatch, I must admit I do like the writing and the humour at times. Its star is amazing. I mean, an android baby that's part innocent little girl, part German mastermind is just so wacky, and I love it.
Yeah.
I also love the Zeroids. Stewed Apples reminds me of someone I used to go to college with. It's creepy yet uncanny, and I love the repeated insults that Zelda dishes on young Star. Silence, you glutinous half-wit! That kind of thing. You like that? Is that right?
Yeah, lovely.
Apart from the few daft episodes, it helped me cope with a few dull, sleepless nights. Now, I'm going to see what these UFO audio dramas are like that Big Finish have been churning out. Hopefully, they'll do something original with them, says Lee. Yeah. Wow. All for now, but yeah, do head on over to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/podstrons. Answer a few questions, we'll let you in, you can join in the fun.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Amazing.
It is
and it's
amazing.
the happiest place on the internet.
Now, we've spoke there. Lee mentioned the Big Finish audio dramas, UFO Space 1999, Terrorhawks, and so on. Has that been an enjoyable and it seems certainly to be a fruitful relationship?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they took a punt on Terrorhawks and we had a great time doing those.
Yeah.
Chris was involved with every single one.
Yes.
Even playing Yuri the Bear.
Oh, yes.
In Matrix.
Yes, there we go.
Very good.
Didn't expect that guest on the podcast.
No.
So no, it's been lovely. It's a great way to get new stuff out there and get people engaged with the shows. And it's really nobody's ever going to make new old episodes again. It's not going to happen.
No,
It's just not. It's not commercially viable. So the closest you can get really is the continuations on Big Finish or the sort of slight reimaginings from there.
Yes.
That's the closest you'll get to new episodes. So no, they're great.
That was part of the fun as well with Terrorhawks, realising you were playing with toys that no one had touched in decades, and that, in my case, certainly, I'm the only one who wrote for that character, that one-off guest character.
Yes.
It's quite, it's a small thing, but it means a lot to me. So, yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed those.
Yeah. Excellent.
You've been in plenty as well.
Yeah.
I've been in a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I have.
It's a very nice thing to do.
It really is, yeah.
Thanks, Big Finish, for
Yeah.
helping us continue all things Anderson.
Yeah.
Can I ask an awkward question?
Uh-oh. How much do you want?
Well, because I forgot the Book of Fab Facts.
I did notice, yes.
Yeah.
I think Chris mentioned earlier on, and if he hasn't mentioned, I'm going to drop him in it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Notice a distinct lack of a randomiser.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, yes. Well, you see, I'm here.
Yes,
I know
yeah.
the randomiser is on the Eagle, and I don't know about that.
Ah.
Oh, what's this?
What?
Well,
That's what?
I think my faithful friend Marina
It's good, isn't it?
might have been here before us. There's a piece of paper here.
Goodness me.
I have in my hand a piece of paper.
very exciting.
It looks to me like a randomizer printout.
It looks like a receipt to me.
No, I think it's a randomizer.
Sorry.
Spoiling the
I do beg your
illusion
pardon.
there.
Yes. Sorry.
I think someone should open this and find out what it is that I'll be watching this week, and then I'll go off and watch it.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how we should do things.
All right.
Well,
so who do you think?
You certainly
well-
don't. You wouldn't want anyone who is
I wouldn't
second
want just
best
anyone
on
to
the
do
list.
this.
Well, no, obviously.
You wouldn't want Space Precinct's second scariest.
What?
monster, for
Oh,
example.
wow. No.
Just a minute.
So, does that mean can I do it?
I think you've made a very convincing argument there.
So if the cyborg were here, you'd let him do it, would you?
Obviously.
well, yeah, but he
He's
didn't
not,
exist, so
so-
that's all right.
So
what
I'm
am I gonna
opening
be
the
watching this
printout.
week?
Go on then.
Oh, actually, hang on. I should
Yes.
say for anyone who's just listening for the first time.
Oh yes.
Normally, Chris has the randomizer and he presses the big red button on it,
Yes.
and that chooses a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson show, and he watches it and says funny things.
Yeah.
But it looks like Marina has saved my bacon again by printing it off screen, bringing
Right.
it here,
Right.
and
There you go.
we're gonna find out
Yeah.
what it
So
is.
this is the sound of me. I'm opening it up.
What do you want it to
It looks like a pair of socks for $5.99 from Marks and Spencer.
Oh. Well,
Oh, he seems excited.
it's a pilot episode,
Oh, don't get too many of those.
Right.
and it's for
Yes.
a Supermarionation.
Of course.
Show.
Not had one of those yet, unless I've forgotten one.
Should we hand over to Marina and other Chris to find out, or should I
I
actually
think you
say
should
what
say
it is?
what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
Drum roll, please.
Yes.
It's Fireball XL5.
Oh, right.
Planet
46. Brilliant. Okay, well, I should go off and watch that then.
See you later.
And when I've watched it, I'll come back.
All right.
And we'll have a bit of a chat about it.
See you then.
Right.
Bye, Chris.
Bye. So, we welcome back to the Randomiser, Fireball XL5. I'm not entirely sure when we were last here. Checking my notes, it looks like that might have been Pod 219 with drama at Space City.
Lieutenant 90, send out a general alert. This is an emergency.
And we open with another drama, but this is the very first episode of Fireball XL5 Planet 46. And I believe, in fact, I was just sitting here thinking about it, I think this is the first time we've had the pilot episode of a Supermarionation show come up on the Randomiser.
A rocket range standing by.
We haven't had How It Began, we haven't had Rescue, haven't had the first episode of Stingray, haven't had the first episode of Thunderbirds.
According to the computer, it's carrying a planetomic...
No, unless I've forgotten one of them.
Full enough to destroy...
This is the first time a Supermarionation first episode has landed on the Randomiser. So, congrats to Fireball XL5 for earning that honour. And a slightly unfortunate shot there of the Earth looking very blurry as the planetomic missile approaches.
Sector 25. That's Fireball XL5, Steve Zodiac.
I instantly love how large this organisation feels. We have a map on the wall of space divided up into sectors, and of course we have to think about which of our ships is out there, even though the map is only divided into 3 sectors, so it kind of gives the impression that there are only 3 sectors, which must mean there are only 3 ships. But as we know from later episodes, there's a lot more going on.
Forgetting you're only a robot. Say, Venus, how's our beautiful doctor of space medicine?
I gather by the compliment, Steve, you want something to eat.
You would never pay me a compliment unless you wanted something.
Cooking. What's on the menu today? Blue pills, pink pills, or those delicious capsules that you make up?
One thing that I love about this first episode of XL5, and it's there in quite a lot of the Supermarionation pilots, but this one in particular, just how confident they are in setting off on this show, and how well everything falls into place right from the very beginning.
From the moon.
With the possible exception of the Secret Service, where, you know, what is going on in the Secret Service generally.
What's that, Professor?
But that the establishing
Time to eat.
episode sets up all these concepts and characters just perfectly.
Something important.
There isn't that sort of rocky period that you get in, say, the live action shows where, for instance, with UFO or Space Precinct, even Terrorhawks and New Captain Scarlet, there was this sort of period of adjustment, figuring out what the show can be.
XL5.
But this, straight away, is just XL5. Everything that the show would be is right here.
Abandon routine procedure.
The characters arrive perfectly formed.
Arming all warheads.
We instantly know what this ship is all about, and she's a gorgeous design straight off the bat.
Steve, where is the missile heading?
According to space...
Even if the science is a bit simplistic.
We've got to stop it, Venus. It's carrying a planetomic warhead.
A planetomic warhead? Why, Steve, that's a million times more powerful than a hydrogen bomb.
Oh, is it? Well, thank you for telling me. I had no idea. Of course I knew. Go back to making me some steak, woman.
The professor tracking the missile?
Oh dear, poor Venus. Yes, as I said, the characters are just fully formed, for better or worse, right from the beginning. But this is also a very sort of, not tense, but the drama of this opening sequence of this missile attack on Earth is
Roger. All warheads.
Very well done, I think. And what's great is it just throws you straight into the action. There isn't that moment you get to maybe learn who these characters are. That'll come.
Professor, we're on course.
But we'll learn who these characters are by seeing them in action, which I think is a great way to do it. And that's how a lot of the Anderson shows, the Supermarionation shows, worked.
I've got it. Range 20.
Oh, there it is.
25. Steve, we will have to fire the interceptors at maximum range. That way we'll be clear of the radiation when it explodes.
And you also have to remember, looking at this, that it wouldn't have been
Interceptors.
that long ago that they were, doing Supercar, which even the later episodes compared to this look not primitive, because Supercar is a huge technical achievement, as is Four Feather Falls and even Torchy.
All XL5.
But you see that level of evolution from series to series, and it's perhaps nowhere better evidence than the end of one series and the beginning of the next.
In range.
Also, this would be, with the exception of The Day That Time Stood Still,
400.
This is our first sort of sci-fi story, isn't it, from the Andersons?
UHF.
We're now in the future, on a spaceship. I know we had that strange, as I said, The Day That Time Stood Still, that weird episode of Supercar with aliens that could invade your dreams. And of course we had a few episodes where Supercar had to go into space. But again, present day, we are now firmly in the future, science fiction, space race time. And we've blown up the enemy missile.
What's happened, Professor?
Oh, no, we haven't.
It exploded before it reached the target.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Exploded by radio.
I was going to comment on that. It looked like the missile exploded ahead of time.
Yeah, a suicide crew.
Oh, no. We have some kamikaze pilots ready to give their all in the cause of blowing up the Earth. And what's also great about this, thinking about this as being the first, essentially, sci-fi story produced by AP Films, you have just this instantly believable universe. Okay, there's some shots here where you have the models hanging in front of a rear projection of space that don't quite work. But by and large, I really love the space shots in this show. There's something strange about the way they're lit.
Nice work, Steve.
That is very convincing. I remember in the TV21 XL5 comics, they did space was sort of blue, and I always felt that kind of reflected how space looked in this show.
Good luck, Steve.
Anywho, we've traced the source of the missile to planet 46.
Hey, how about some coffee, Venus? I guess we've earned it.
Yeah. He's so cool. He's so cool and so smooth. Saving the world, have some coffee. And we also establish here that Robert is the robotic co-pilot and he can be left alone to pilot XL5, no problems. While the rest of the crew just sit in the back and lounge around. And here's something that was mentioned occasionally through the run of the show, but not all that often.
Oh, quite a few days yet, Venus. I suggest we rest all we can. We don't know what's in store for us when we arrive.
The idea that it was a long journey between planets, which obviously it would be, even for the pride of the world, Space Patrol. And that's something that was taken even further in Roberta Lee's Space Patrol. I think someone's added up how long it takes for the characters to zip around the universe over the course of the series, because they always say they're going into a freezer for like 36 days or something. So the entire series runs a very long time. This isn't so long, and luckily they didn't return too much to this idea of we have to wait for the crew to get there and we have to watch them sleeping. But it's a nice touch of realism, which the show generally didn't go in for heavily. But again, it's just enough realism to make all this future feel real and workable.
You are now approaching planet 46.
In later episodes, it wouldn't be quite as the process of getting from planet A to planet B wouldn't be quite as involved as it is here. It's just off we go, and we'll be there soon. That's the first appearance of Steve Zodiac's blinking head, which is fine for blinking when he's supposed to look
Fire main retro.
Tired, but when they use it for scenes where he's not supposed to be blinking, he just does look very tired, almost hungover. Whoa.
Steve, we're in orbit.
Yeah, and that's another shot I never liked, actually, where they fire the boosters to go into orbit, and suddenly XL5 droops as if it's about to fall out of orbit.
If we need any help, we'll call you.
I'll be standing by, Steve.
What are the chances they could need help? It's just a planet firing planetomic missiles at them. But speaking of great effect shots...
Safety belt fastened?
Safety belt fastened.
Ooh, we have safety belts on this spaceship. Eat your heart out, Enterprise. Is this going to be the episode with the shot that I really like? No, it's not. It's an early version of XL5 detaching from the main body. Fireball Jr., I should say, detaching from the main body and descending to the planet. But there's
if there's any life on
a stunningly beautiful shot that they would reuse throughout the series.
Is that the computers?
That was more of a trial run for it.
Oh.
Sure, that's why we're here.
Me and my cool hair, and you and your French cooking. Yes, here we are, our first... No, again, it's not our first alien world, is it? That Supercar episode keeps lousing everything up. Oh dear. Anywho.
Good. They've landed safely.
I was afraid they might crash it again. Oh, this is... And Fireball is also a gorgeous looking ship. There's Steve wearing his blinking head again. Get your blinking head off, mate. But I also love how cute Fireball Jr. looks. And yet, for something that's so small, it often feels like it has quite a lot of weight to it. Oh, dear. It's just the design work on this show is instantly perfect. Space City, gorgeous. XL5, beautiful. Even the hover bikes.
No sign of life. No
which are just, a plot device to get our characters around without having them to walk. These look so sleek and so cool. They're not hoverbikes, are they? They're jetmobiles in this show. Hoverbikes is Thunderbirds.
The creeps.
But of the, that kind of thing, the jetmobiles here, the hoverbikes in Thunderbirds, the
Is it cold?
monocopters in Stingray, these are by far the coolest design.
The answer. I'm a tootie. Why didn't I think of that before? Come on, let's go.
Yeah, he's a tootie for not thinking that the baddies who fired the missile would operate in a cave. See, that's why he's the commander of this spaceship. Yeah, I like the jetmobile design in Thunderbirds. Not so much the monocopters from Stingray. I think they just look like what they are, a chair with a fan on it.
Diamonds.
My God!
Thousands of diamonds.
Looks like we've stumbled on something, Venus. Come on.
Stick a few in your pocket, Venus. No, they're far too...
Venus, stop!
They're far too upstanding to do something like that. But here we are,
Venus, on the other side, look.
A lake of fire.
Door.
And a door on the other side. We've just stumbled across the base instantly.
One thing, life.
Doors mean life, Venus. I read that somewhere once.
Get help, fast.
But Steve...
I get what he's saying, but it's just how he says it. A door can only mean life. But straight away, Steve is earning his heroic credentials by... Oh, there's a lake of fire? It's like less than 10 seconds of him seeing the lake of fire and him charging across it on his hoverbike. Jetmobile!
Steve, what's wrong?
Well, I'm suspended over a lake of boiling lava. What do you think is wrong, woman?
Our jets don't stop.
Oh dear. Come on, Steve, you can do it. I really love this jetmobile design, actually. You know how it was Eagle Moss, the late, dearly departed Eagle Moss, they were making TARDIS consoles at one point. I would love a series of the jetmobile and the hoverbike and maybe not a monocopter, but Commander Shaw's chair, certainly. Oh yeah, that's the chair from Stingray, I think. They excelled themselves there and left nothing for the monocopter. Anywho, we're not talking about Stingray, we're talking about XL5.
You're almost there.
He's almost there. Come on, Steve, you can do it. Hey, now he's got a reason to wear his blinking head. Sweat pouring off his face. And he's made it to the side.
Venus, I made it.
Hooray for me. And instantly, he's thwarted, because there are the subterranes.
Oh, Steve.
Oh, no. They appear in these little tubes, and Steve is instantly just, I'm going to shoot you. But unfortunately for him, his laser can't get through the tubes they're in.
Venus, get help. Fast.
But their lasers can fire through the tubes that they were in and knock him out. So now it's all up to Venus to race out of there as fast as she can. This is a very cool escape sequence. I love that rock that looks like a sort of monster hawk type thing, but unfortunately for her, they have two sticks that make sparks, and... that's a rather startling moment. Not just the sight of Venus sort of thrown off her bike into a rock, and then there's that rather effective shot of a subterrane pointing his gun down at her, but that scream... I'd love to know where that scream came from, because it's clearly not Sylvia. It's clearly sourced from some TV show or film. If anybody knows where that scream came from, do let me know. But, oh, here we go. We're in the subterranean control room, which looks very nice, except for one little detail, the subterranean leader's high chair. I've always found it so funny that he has a higher chair than everyone else, but it can even extend even higher for those moments where he needs to be even more authoritative and scary.
What's happened to Venus?
Your Earth woman is quite safe for them.
Yeah, there goes the high chair.
There in the rocket.
Wobbling into position.
Launched against Earth in exactly 8 minutes from now.
You're bluffing.
Am I?
We're just going to keep trying to nuke Earth. But now we've got Venus on our rocket as well.
Commence launching procedure.
And the Subterranes are very nice looking villains. I don't think the show did enough with them, or at least knew how to use them after this, because they were hatching some strange plans after this. But they...
And if I don't?
they just look very, very nice. I particularly like the bit of rope that's glued to their foreheads, sloping across their eyebrows that does absolutely nothing.
Have discovered launching.
It all looks so nice. They've really gone all out to make these...
Bring her down, Professor.
These effective-looking aliens, not just villains, but aliens, and that was something the show did very well as well.
We're on our way.
Oh, dear.
Landing procedure.
Steve's had to lie to them
22-0
to lure the main body of XL5.
Procedure underway. Excellent, Steve Zodiac. Now instruct him to...
They've let Steve have a seat. That's very sweet of them.
22-0 blue. And your Earth woman will be released.
Oh.
Fireball XL5. This is Steve Zodiac. That's right, Professor. Land at position code 22...
Yeah, there's that shot of XL5 orbiting again, and later on they hit a really nice-looking shot. This is not it, but they'll get there soon, and for the time, it's still very impressive stuff.
Blue position.
It's streets ahead of what was going on in things like Space Patrol and similar.
Landing position to code 22-0 green.
Correction.
And here's our first introduction of Robert and his...
Blue.
Bond.
His problems with anger management.
No.
Blowing his top.
Get all steamed up.
Which is something that would last through most of the series.
I'm only human.
I mean, I suppose it was done for a bit of comic effect, but I don't know. More often than not, it just seemed to cause problems. To the extent where, I think it's is it the very next episode, Hypnotic Sphere, he actually punches Steve out because he gets so confused.
Observe.
Oh no, XL5 is sinking. The main body has landed on the planet.
They're sinking into the ground.
Yes, they were ordered to land on the...
Is going according to plan.
On the quicksand bit, I guess.
Will sink in the ash. The beautiful Earth woman will die.
Oh no.
The rocket hits its target, Earth. Then it is your turn. You have already cost us one failure.
So much for your word as a subterranean.
Yeah, which you never gave. These guys have got a... They've sorted it all out. Steve's captured, Venus is going to be nuked, and Robert and Matt are drowning in quicksand.
38. 37.
I love this as well. The countdown sequence with groovy music.
5. 34.
I also noticed in the background there's a subterranean working at a control panel which has... I think they're called sprues, the bits that you get in a model kit that hold the model kit pieces in place.
Robert! What's the matter?
And there's a lot of contemporary knobs and switches and dials and readouts about the place, which again, it looks to us kind of retro, but it also fits in with the whole retro-futuristic look of the show. And yet at the time, I suppose, it would have done the job for viewers, especially younger viewers who wouldn't really have understood what they were looking at.
4, 3.
Oh no, nearly there. And as the countdown goes along, and the
0.
The rocket is fired.
Ignite.
We've been getting more and more close-ups, if that makes sense, as the subterraneans enjoy their countdown. And some very effective use of lighting as Steve watches the rocket take off. Oh, a bit wobbly.
Guidance mechanism.
Change guidance frequency.
And with all this going on, Steve has had plenty of time to stroll over to his jetmobile and retrieve his laser. In full view of all of the subterraneans, but nobody seems to care.
Rocket now under control. Guidance system.
They're too concerned about their guidance problems. I also love looking at that shot of the rocket take off. You see the little subterranean base in the cliff top on the background. It's just...
You think.
Oh, that's it. Good old Steve. Yeah, it's just a lovely touch. And establishing the geography of this place. Oh, there you go. That's why you don't sit in a high chair, leader. When your prisoner shoots you, you tend to take a great blow to the noggin as you fall off and hit the floor.
Good, Robert. We can't get her out of this without Fireball Jr. What's hip?
I never understood that part, though. I mean, surely with Fireball Jr., XL5 is heavier, and Jr. doesn't really add much to the whole boost thing. XL5 seems to have plenty of boosters on its own anyway, but I'm not going to quibble with Matic, nor am I going to quibble with this shot, which is very cool, of Steve smashing through the window in the control room on his jetmobile with the subterranean leader sort of draped over the back. And that's a lot of strings. There's 2 puppets and a jetmobile to be working, and yet the model is moving across the room with great ease. That's some terrific skill by the puppeteers there. So we're in yet another dramatic situation, because this episode is just full of dramatic situations.
XL5 from Steve Zodiac. I'll be with you in a moment, Professor. Once we get the nose cone attached, we'll be able to pull Fireball out of the ash.
Hurry, Steve! We're almost completely submerged.
I love the way they've tilted the set as well to make it look like the interior is at the angle that the rest of the ship is in. I mean, maybe this thing of XO5 not being able to escape without Fireball Jr. is the fact that they don't have any controls to move the ship until Junior's reattached. I don't know, that doesn't seem...
Professor, I'm back!
And I'm cooler than ever. Yeah, that doesn't seem... Yeah, I guess that must just be it. They can't fire the main boosters without Fireball Jr. That seems really unlikely and counterproductive, but anywho, they're out of the quicksand.
Instruct your subterranean.
And Matt's going to take his revenge on the subterranean leader by holding him at gunpoint, point-blank range.
You don't, we'll be forced to destroy your planet.
I'm gonna want vengeance, and I'm gonna pistol whip you until you tell me what I want to know, boy.
This is your subterranean chief speaking.
I love that they've given the subterranean on the missile a blinking head. I don't think any of the others do.
Abandon missile.
And it just gives him this look of being very sleepy.
I have passed on your message, but to no avail. The Earth Woman will die anyway.
You know how accident-prone she is.
Equipment on board.
Here, take this. It's an oxygen pill. It'll enable you to live in space.
Live and love and thrive in space. I love the way they introduce that in this show. It's just, oh, no, don't need to explain it. Just, you can live in space, swallow this. It also made the subterranean pilot look even dopier as he's sitting there listening to her with his barely able to keep his eyes open. Steve's got his blinking head on again though as well. I'm not sure what it is about that blinking head that looks so bad, but I think it's something to do with the hair. The hair just doesn't look as good as it does on the regular head. Ah, that's it. Venus and the pilot are adrift in space.
Message understood.
Living in space as they are, and Steve's gone out with a rope to pull them in. And the first of some, what this show will produce a lot of from Barry Gray, some very strange, spacey music. More to come in later episodes, but there's some good stuff here. And there we go, they've nuked another missile from Planet 4-6.
Well done, Professor. Now winch us in.
And, well, aside from the fact that they've got the subterranean leader and they're going to take him back to Earth, well, I guess that's supposedly enough of a reason for them to stop firing missiles at Earth.
Sure looks better from here than inside that subterranean rocket.
Thanks to you, Steve. I guess I know now why they call you the greatest astronaut on space patrol.
Oh.
I think you're cute, too.
Now, where's my steak?
Oh, this is Fireball XL5 returning to base. Mission complete. Over and out.
Oh, everything at that ending there just gels perfectly. The music, the look of the character, the heroic tone of Paul Maxwell's voice, and there we go. That's the end of the first episode of Fireball XL5, and just straight out of the gate, the show is, I'd say, as good as it's ever going to get, really. Everything that makes the show work is here, and it already works. That's what's quite incredible. Just straight out of the gate, there's nothing here that you look at and think, oh, I'm glad they dropped that, or I'm glad that wasn't a thing for very long. Everything's just as it would be for the remaining 38 episodes, and that's something that I find with a lot of the Supermarionation, at least the pilot episodes, are by and large just superb stuff, wonderful showcases in defining and establishing the format that will just work for the rest of the series. And as always, that was Gerry and Sylvia writing the very first episode. It's just good stuff all the way through. Not a favourite episode of XL5 for me. I don't think this would even make the top 10, but it's just, in terms of establishing the show, setting up all the characters in this wonderful world, I don't think they could have done much better than this. So overall, yeah, thumbs up here. Good stuff.
Oh, here he is.
Well done, Chris.
That
Brilliant.
was as good as I remember it. Yes, yes. Very nice to have a first Supermarionation episode, a nice pilot episode.
Now, can I ask what your preference is in the randomizer? Of course, it's random. We don't know what we're going to get every week. But what do you prefer? Bit of live action, bit of Supermarionation? And if so, the early stuff or the later stuff?
Well, my personal tastes are for the later Supermarionation stuff, but really, I like everything. There's very little in there that I am not happy to see come up. In terms of editing, the longer episodes take longer to edit, so I'm kind of thinking, normally 25-minute episodes are a nice...
Perfect.
Just enough of a thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Great.
I should also mention that I am very aware that I said near the beginning that the last time we did XL5 was drama at Space City, and I know I was wrong because just before Christmas we had Last of the Xanadu, so there we go. I apologise.
I'm so glad you got your apology because we would have been inundated.
I wouldn't have been able to sleep if I hadn't.
No, that's right, exactly.
Tut.
So more Randomiser goodness next week. In the meantime, if you fancy a bit more Randomiser, of course, they can find your very own Gerry Anderson's Randomiser podcast.
Yes, and also it has its own YouTube channel now.
Does it?
Yes.
Amazing, isn't it?
Someone left a comment on there recently. I prefer this to the main podcast.
Right, you didn't have to mention that.
So there we go.
But fair enough.
Nice.
Yeah. On that note,
it was me that left.
Yeah, I thought it might have been. Yeah. All for now. So I'm all out of messages, but do keep them coming in for next week when it'll be more of the usual fare, I think.
We're not doing this for the 250th randomizer.
No, maybe not. So keep your emails coming in to podcast@gerryanderson.com. Do hashtag us on Twitter as well. Hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast 250 if you want to send us your best wishes for our 250th podcast. Tell us what your favourite moments have been, how long you've been listening, your favourite interviewees, your favourite randomizer.
All those things.
And also, don't forget to join in all the fun on our Facebook groups.
Because we'd love to make 1,000 as a gift from our Podstrons to us and each other for the 250th episode.
Can we ask for our own gift from the Podstrons?
Well, if we're sharing it back with them,
we'll give it back. We'll give it straight back.
Yes.
Yeah, fine.
We'll return it immediately.
That'd be good. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Join in.
Please do all those things.
Good.
Yeah.
Is that it then?
Well, we've done Fab Facts, we've done the news, we've done the randomizer, we've even done the interview. I mean, we've covered all the bases.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Gubbins, Podstrons.
Yeah.
The only thing that's been missing really is an impression.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, do you want to see us out, Richard, with perhaps Terry Wogan congratulating us on our 250th episode?
The old Gerry Anderson Podcast. I'd just like to say, congratulations, you fine boys. I'm going a bit Windsor Davis now.
I thought you was, lad, yes.
I think that's me done.
Wow.
And on that note,
podcast, leave because of the impressions.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, Podstrons.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for staying with us.
Why, I don't know, but there'll be more of this next week.
And here's to the next
week.
250.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Well, off we go.
Yes. Where are we going?
Curry time.
To the curry.
Oh, let's
Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So we are technically doing the bit that you and I do normally, where we just carry on chatting.
Oh, yes.
afterwards, except now I'm so hungry, I don't think I can. Do
really?
it.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I mean, let's just have a quick order then. So, what are you going to go for tonight? I might have a lamb jar fraise.
Lamb naga.
I'm going to have a peshwari naan with that.
Garlic naan.
Ah, okay. Chris, any
I
ideas?
have absolutely no idea. I'll have to see what takes my fancy when we get there.
Okay, I'd recommend an onion bhaji to start.
Oh,
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. Go! All right, we're going. Yes, come on. All right, can I have a kingfisher, please? 3 pies. Do you want a kingfisher?
I don't care. Just want something.
Yeah, and I'll have a...
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.